faked COVID numbers, the huge amounts of money that has become quite the boon, the immense amounts of money coming from this COVID-19 plandemic, scamdemic. Are the numbers really being faked? Well, let's address another subject here. I see in New York that Andy Cuomo has a vast amount of money to build a 140-acre super-duper modern transportation hub smack dab in the middle of Manhattan. Home to 480 sewage overflow pipes that dump massive amounts of sewage into the East River and into New York Harbor, Long Island Sound. Let's run that past you one more time. Sewage, pneumonia, sewage, SARS, sewage, flu. Let's see, sewage, Legionella, COVID-19 sewage, 480 sewage overflow pipes from Manhattan into the East River and New York Harbor. 480 sewage overflow pipes where they dump God only knows how much untreated sewage into the waters surrounding Manhattan. But Andy Cuomo has plenty of money to build a 140-acre super duper modern transportation hub in the middle of a city that's dying on the vine of SARS and COVID and flu and pneumonia and Legionella and all these other diseases that are spread by sewage coming out of 480 sewage overflow pipes. Fascinating correlation of facts. Now let's go down to North Carolina for a minute. Roy Cooper, the big Democrat in North Carolina. For some odd reason, North Carolina's got a giant sewage problem. Interesting, Roy Cooper. Lots and lots and lots of sewage being dumped in the Cape Fear River Basin, the Neuse River Basin. The septic systems all over the state barely and rarely work because of all the red clay in the soils. And huge amounts of money flow into the failed, backwoods, remote, rural towns and villages in North Carolina that have massive sewage problems. Come on, Roy Cooper, let's talk about the massive sewage problem in Raleigh. Right there in the center of Raleigh at the federal courthouse, the Terry Sanford Federal Courthouse, the judges and the FBI agents and the U.S. Marshals and the prosecuting attorneys and all them bar card carrying lawyers and all those fancy pants federal employees, well, they dumped their sewage into Walnut Creek for 50 years, for 5 decades. Right smack dab in the middle of Raleigh, North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper, right there, just around the corner there from the governor's mansion, Governor Cooper, over on New Bern, at the Terry Sanford Federal Courthouse, where all the federal judges and the federal magistrates and the federal prosecuting attorneys were all basically going to the bathroom in Walnut Creek for 5 decades. Governor Roy Cooper. Now, I don't want to, make this embarrassing or anything, Mr. Cooper, but you've got Falls Lake, primary drinking reservoir for the city of Durham and Raleigh, and then you've got, I don't know how many other lakes and creeks and rivers that feed the drinking water systems of your major cities. Like the Cape Fear River, full of sewage. The Neuse River, full of sewage. I'm beginning to wonder about the New River and the Fisher River. And let's see, there's rivers all over north and western North Carolina that septic tanks and cesspools and sewage overflow pipes are dumping all kinds of bacteria and viruses and God only knows what else into, Governor Roy Cooper. Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of the city of Chicago, and how much sewage does Chicago dump in the Chicago River and into the Great Lakes? And same with Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee. Oh God, Tennessee is full of sewage and full of cesspools and septic tanks dumping into the groundwater, the springs, the creeks, the karsts. Let's not forget the karsts, the underground cavernous sinkhole areas caused by high pH water and limestone, where the water has over millions of years created these large caves underground full of whatever the septic tanks and the sewers and the sewage overflow pipes are dumping into them. Kind of like the Hudson River, which takes me up to Glens Falls, New York, and Lake George, where huge amounts of septic and cesspool leaches into Lake George and is flushed over to Lake Champlain, which is nothing but a giant septic tank. And, of course, you've got the Mohawk River and you've got the Hudson River, which, it's infamous. The Hudson River is the largest Superfund site in the world, full of sewage, Andy Cuomo. And that goes for his younger brother there, Frito. Oh, Frito, whatever. Chris Cuomo. There we go. Come on, Chris Cuomo. Let's talk about the vast sewage poisoning of New York. And then let's talk about that grandiose, ultra-modern, super-duper expensive transportation hub that Governor Cuomo wants to build on the taxpayer's nickel in the middle of Manhattan, the dying city. People are leaving New York like it's going out of style. And, well, Cuomo needs a super-duper fancy works project with huge amounts of Federal Reserve notes printed up out of nothing, that helicopter quantitative easing stuff. The stimulus. They want to build a super-duper government-run, government-controlled transportation hub in the middle of COVID-19 central of the northeastern part of the United States. Fabulous plan, Andy Cuomo. How many more people are you going to make sick with those 480 sewage outflow pipes that go into New York Harbor? Why don't you take some of that money, Andy, and fix the sewage problems in Manhattan and in New Rochelle? Oh, God, New Rochelle. Come on, Andy Cuomo. New Rochelle all the way up to Hudson, Poughkeepsie, up to Albany. Oh, God, Albany's a big septic tank. Ask Charles Schumer, there, old Chucky Schumer, he'll tell you, with Bernie Sanders and, Patrick Leahy. Let's ask Patrick Leahy about septic tank Lake Champlain. Folks, I think I'm making my point. The San Francisco Bay Area, huge amounts of sewage overflow. Tampa Bay, Clearwater, Pinellas Park, huge amounts of sewage overflow into Tampa Bay. You've got the Chesapeake Bay, the Anacostia River. I go all day long from the Ohio River to the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. And the the Rio Grande River, where all those, so-called wetbacks, the wetbacks swim through the sewage to get into the United States, and guess what they bring with them? Everything they just swam in. No wonder Texas has got a massive COVID problem. Come on now, Greg Abbott, John Cornyn. Let's talk to the governors there of Texas. Why does Texas have such a vast COVID-19 problem? Would it be because of the Rio Grande River and the San Jacinto River and the Red River and all the other rivers in Texas that are full of freaking sewage and all the septic tanks all over Texas, poisoning the groundwater? As if the petrochemical industry hasn't done a good enough job of that, right? Folks, I can go on for weeks talking about the massive poisoning of America's water systems, the massive poisoning of America's public waters, rivers, creeks, streams, springs, groundwater by massive amounts of sewage. I don't know. I think it'll sink in. And it would appear that the failed states of the Democrats and the failed states of the Republicans, where, the urban decay and the jobs are fleeing overseas and all the economic destruction in the Rust Belt, and I can go all day long from Flint, Michigan. Come on, there's a good topic for you. The poisoning of the Flint River. The poisoning of the Flint River with sewage. It's happening all over America, folks, and I suggest you all wake up. Folks, I'm going to leave it right there. And as always, hasta la vista, God bless, and how much sewage overflow have you got in your state?